Hi, this video is part of Latin for Beginners, a self-study course which uses a traditional method of classical Latin instruction and emphasizes reading skills. The course is based on a public domain textbook, Latin for Beginners by Benjamin L. Duge. The text may be found at gutenberg.org and a link is in the video description. There is also an online practice tool, as well as additional resources and materials for the course at selfstudyclassics.com. This video covers Lesson 14 of the text. Videos on Lessons 1 through 13 may be found in the Latin for Beginners YouTube playlist or in the videos section at selfstudyclassics.com. The topic of Lesson 14 is possessive pronouns. It's actually not a completely new topic. We have already been introduced to two possessive pronouns, meus meaning my and tuus meaning your. This lesson addresses those explicitly and adds a couple of new ones. We'll get familiar with the concepts in the lesson by working on some translation exercises. Our first exercise is puellae aegris pecuniam suam dant. We'll break it down into phrases and start with the first phrase. Puellae is simply the nominative plural form of the base puella, which means girl. So it means the girls. Aegris is from the base aiger, which is usually an adjective, but here it is used substantively. It is one of those bases ending in er that loses the e in all forms but the nominative singular, so this form is the dative plural. The base means sick, so we translate it as to the sick. The next phrase is pecuniam suam. Pecuniam is a noun in the accusative singular from the base meaning money. Suam is a form of the reflexive possessive adjective which was introduced in this lesson. It is used to indicate possession by the subject, and it is playing an attributive role here to pecuniam. English doesn't have an exact equivalent construction, so we usually use the third person possessive pronoun to translate it. That would be his, her, its, or their. It looks like we have a plural subject here, puellae, so we will use their. The phrase then is their money. At the end of the sentence, we have dant. It is a verb, in the plural form to agree with the subject, puellae. It is from the base, which means gives. Its direct object is pecuniam, and its indirect object is aegris. We translate it as simply give. All the phrases together give us the girls to the sick their money give. After putting them in English word order, we have the girls give their money to the sick. Let's try another one. Ubi mi fili est cibus noster. The first phrase we will look at is ubi mi fili. Ubi is the interrogative adverb meaning where. Mi may not look like it, but it is actually a form of meus, meaning my, the irregular vocative singular form, to be precise. It is attributive with the noun that follows it. That noun is fili. Recall that this is one of the ius nouns that form the vocative singular with an I instead of an E. This is a vocative singular form which identifies the person to whom the sentence is addressed. So the phrase is, where, my son? Now we move on to est cibus noster. Est is the singular form of the verb to be, so it is translated with is and is modified by the adverb ubi. Cibus is a noun in the nominative singular. It is a subject of est, and it is from the base, which means food. Noster is another of the possessive adjectives introduced in this lesson. It is like meus, but it is plural. So instead of my or mine, it is our or ours. It happens to be one of those adjectives like pulcher, which follow the first and second declension for the most part, but have a nominative singular ending in er, as we see here. It is expressing an attribute of cibus. So for the complete phrase, we have is our food. Altogether then, we have where, my son, is our food. which sounds pretty good without any changes to the order. The next one we're going to try is Magister vestra diligentiam fili sui laudat. We start with the first phrase. Magister vestra. Magister is a new vocabulary word for this lesson, meaning teacher. It is another one of the words that end in er in the nominative, like ager. If this were not the nominative singular, the e before the r would drop, and the form would be just like any other second declension masculine form. Vestra is a possessive pronoun introduced in this lesson. Its meaning is like that of tuus, except that it is plural instead of singular. In fact, we use the same word to translate it as we do for tuus, your, because English does not distinguish between the second person singular and the second person plural pronouns. Since vestra mirrors noster and the other er words, like pulcher, with its endings, the form here is nominative singular. It agrees with magister and expresses one of the attributes of magister. So, for the phrase, we have your teacher. Next is diligentiam fili sui. Diligentiam is a new vocabulary word from this lesson. It is a noun, meaning industry, from which we get the English word diligence. Fili is the exact same word we saw in the last sentence. This form, deriving from a word ending in ius in the nominative, could be only one of two forms, vocative singular or genitive singular. In the last sentence, it was vocative, but here it is genitive and expresses possession of diligentiam. Sui is another form of the reflexive possessive adjective. It is singular and genitive, expressing possession of fili by the subject of the sentence, Magister. So we translate it with his. It stands in an attributive relationship with fili. The complete phrase is the industry of his son. As the last phrase in this sentence, we have laudat. It is a verb in the singular form to agree with the subject, Magister. The base is laudat, which means praises, and the thing being praised is the word in the accusative, diligentiam. So that word is the direct object. We translate the phrase as praises. Putting the phrases together gives us your teacher, the industry of his son, praises. In English word order, that is, your teacher praises the industry of his son. Note that there is no way to tell in English whether the your is singular or plural. Latin has a distinction, but it is lost in English. The only way we can tell is from the context. Okay, let's try one last exercise. Castra sunt nostra, sed tēla sunt vestra. On to the first phrase. Castra sunt nostra. Castra is a neuter second declension noun, which is usually seen in the plural. In the plural, it equates to the English singular camp. Sunt is the verb to be, in the plural, to agree with castra. However, we will make the verb singular in English, since camp is singular, and translate it as is instead of are, so that the English is grammatically correct. Nostra is the nominative plural form of the base noster, which is the possessive adjective meaning our. Note that in any form other than the nominative singular, it loses the e before the r, so it is nostra and not nostera. Here it is acting as a predicate adjective. In English, when it is used substantively or in the predicate, we say ours instead of our, so we will render the phrase as the camp is ours. Next, we have sed tēla sunt vestra. Sed is simply the conjunction which means but. Tēla is a noun from the base tēlum, which means weapon. It is the nominative plural form. Sunt is a copula, and it is plural to agree with the subject tēla. Vestra is the neuter nominative plural form of the possessive adjective vester, meaning your. Like noster, it loses the e before the r in every form but the nominative singular. And like noster, it is a different English form, yours instead of your, when it is used substantively or as a predicate adjective, as it is in this case. So the phrase is, but the weapons are yours. The complete sentence, then, is, the camp is ours, but the weapons are yours. Which we can leave in that order. That wraps things up for Lesson 14. You can get practice with the concepts in this video by heading to the practice section of selfstudyclassics.com and choosing Lesson 14. Once you feel you've mastered the Lesson 14 material, you can then move on to Lesson 15 of Latin for Beginners, which introduces some new uses for the ablative case. It should be coming soon if it isn't yet available at the time of your viewing. Thanks for watching.